College football has always been a deeply unserious sport, and I hope that it stays that way until the end of time. In 85% of the time, it's good that it's a deeply unserious sport, and then you get the 15% of the time that it's like, ugh, this sucks, which I think we've seen over the course of the last month or so of part of the 15% of the time where it's like, oh, this isn't fun. But when it is fun, it is fun because it's horribly unserious. Like I can sit here and talk about politics all day. It's not fun. Like people's lives are at stake. Football's just a game. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be unserious. And that's what I appreciate about it. There isn't, life and death consequences when it comes to college football. And while I will sit here and pound the table that it is a business, the idea that it's a business on the same level as the NFL is preposterous. It's not, because its mission still, in a lot of cases, is get a bunch of kids a free education. The overwhelming majority of guys aren't going to go on to play professionally. They might find a profession in football, but that's different than playing professional football. So you're trying to do what you can to get kids a free education, and that's why completely different tangent. I hate the idea of scholarship limitations. All you're doing is taking away a free education from somebody. If you say, hey, we're going to take away 3 scholarships or 10 scholarships or whatever, that's 10 kids who don't get to go to college for free. That sucks. But that could be another topic for another day. There were 2 things that came out this weekend that just highlight the fact that college football is a deeply, deeply unserious sport. And I'm here for both of them. One is fun and interesting, and we could probably talk about for an hour. And then the other is one of the most preposterous things I think I've ever heard. So let's start with the fun one. New Mexico State played in the New Mexico Bowl, which I forgot to mention this on Thursday when I talked about, bowl destinations. I feel bad for the teams and the programs that get bowls that are somewhat close to them, or in this case, extremely close to them. Like I always felt kind of bad. I mean, I don't feel bad, but like Hawaii used to play in the Hawaii Bowl all the time, right? Like you're just playing in your home stadium. Now your home stadium is in paradise, so it's not that bad. But like, that's what you see all the time. Like get out on a trip, go somewhere, take your kids to somewhere. Or like, Rutgers would play in the Pinstripe Bowl in New York. Like, man, you're suffering through a New Jersey winter to begin with, and then your reward for throwing your body all around so a bunch of old dudes can make money off you is like you get to play a game in Yankee Stadium in the cold. That sucks. Or, Michigan State or Central Michigan plays in the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit. Oh, man. That's a rough one. But New Mexico State was playing in the New Mexico Bowl, which is at their chief rival's stadium. And part of the bowl experience is, spending a couple of days in Albuquerque instead of Las Cruces. Well, a situation arose where New Mexico did not want New Mexico State practicing in their indoor facility, which I think is, when you don't know the entire story, I assume you don't know the entire story. On the surface, that's just a rival, trying to get in the head of their rival, of just, hey, I don't want my rival inside my practice facility. Well, actually, earlier this summer, there was a situation where New Mexico State's quarterback was filmed urinating on the New Mexico logo inside their practice facility. So the New Mexico athletic director was like, I'm not about to let New Mexico State inside this building. Well, the director of the New Mexico Bowl had to get involved and say, like, hey, contractually, they have to be allowed to practice in our indoor facility if that's where they want to practice. Well, the day that they wanted to practice inside the indoor, it was snowing. It was snowing outside, and New Mexico State was like, well, yeah, let's practice in the indoor. And New Mexico said, no, you're not doing that. So, like, part of that is, I think, the fun aspect of, like, it's just a rivalry. It's a weird situation where you don't want your rival practicing inside your indoor facility, especially when there's a history of the quarterback peeing on our logo. So when they went into practice in the indoor facility, there were 4 Albuquerque police officers there to watch practice. And Jerry Kill apparently had said, like, we went up and talked to the police officers, and they were like, yeah, there's a whole lot of things going wrong in Albuquerque, but we're here guarding the logo, I guess. Now, Jerry Kill was adamant that the quarterback for New Mexico State was punished pretty strongly, and he had this to say in the post-game press conference after the New Mexico Bowl, and I think it's just outstanding. But this is Jerry Kill after the win and talking about the entire situation.
It was a great bowl game, and hopefully we can do a good enough job to come back someday. But they did a great job, and I appreciate it. Now the other part of it's this, we had all kinds of stuff, here at the bowl game trying to get done. He had to fight his ass off to get us to be able to practice in an indoor because of a situation that happened, down the road. Most of you know that. Okay. I did my part. I disciplined the young man. And it may not be the time to do it, but gosh, I'm going to get off my damn mind because I didn't say anything about it. We disciplined the young man. He doesn't get to do any interviews and stuff like that. If you want to take a toothbrush and clean toilets all the time, that ain't a lot of fun. And do community service. Well, guess what? I hope the AD here gets the same damn discipline with the people around this state that Diego got, because he deserves it. And it don't bother me a damn bit. When he don't let us want to practice in the indoor facility, when he don't want us to do this and do that, that's chicken shit. And I don't care. That's my opinion. I get in trouble. I don't give a shit either. Because I can go down, and I can go down to Mexico tomorrow, drink margaritas, and let you all enjoy your life, because I'll be enjoying mine. But I got class. I've had class my whole life. And you can ask the college football profession. I've had class. Never been treated like that. And guess what? When that incident happened, I didn't know about it for 2 months. And we beat them right here. Then they tell me after the game, take that to the bank. And he better be disciplined. He better be disciplined by the state. And if he's not, it's a crime.
So that's Jerry Kill after the New Mexico Bowl, obviously fired up. And I have a boatload of respect for Jerry Kill because he has won at places that it is not easy to win. Like New Mexico State won 10 games this year. Winning 10 games at New Mexico State is like winning 16 games at Clemson. It's like winning 16 games at Indiana. Like that is unprecedented what he's done. They're, I think, the 4th team ever to go 10-5 in a college football season, but to win 10 games at Mexico State is insane. But he's obviously fired up, and I think he's got a bit of a case there to be fired up because all you're trying to do is just practice. Now, if he's honest about the things that he says he's honest about, that they punished the quarterback and he did community service and cleaned toilets with toothbrushes and all that stuff, he's got a leg to stand on. He's got a reason to be mad and angry and upset. But it does highlight that it's somewhat preposterous for a school to be like, no, you're not practicing in an indoor because you are our rival. Your laundry is different than ours. At the end of the day, you all aren't from New Mexico, or in a lot of probably cases for New Mexico State from West Texas. That was from KTSM, the NBC affiliate in El Paso, because Las Cruces is just a hop, skip, and a jump from El Paso. I don't even know if a hop, skip, and a jump. It's a stone's throw away from El Paso. But you all are Americans. You all are New Mexicoians. I doubt that. New Mexicans. I don't know what the what the person from New Mexico is called. But the only thing that separates you is laundry. To the point where you're like, I don't want their football players inside practicing in our facility. I was like, well, wait a second. Contractually, you are required to do this. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. So I appreciate the rivalry. I appreciate the pettiness. I appreciate all of the stupid, unserious things that come with that situation. That's hilarious to me. I find that incredibly funny. I'm here for it. Now, the other deeply unserious situation in college football that I want to bring up and talk about is Kyle McCord, the quarterback at Ohio State, decided to transfer from Ohio State. And there were rumors swirling about the reasoning behind why he transferred. There was a report from Bill Rabinowitz of the Columbus Dispatch that kind of went through like basically where the frustration for Kyle McCord started, where the frustration lied from the Ohio State coaching staff, and put it all together. It's like, this is kind of how and why this all went down the way that it did. Essentially, the frustration with Kyle McCord at Ohio State started when he was a freshman and he played in a 5th game that eliminated the possibility of him redshirting. That they put him in, that he was needed to play due to an injury to CJ Stroud. And then in a game against Michigan State later in the season, they played him in a 5th game that meant he could not redshirt. And apparently he was not happy about that. That was where the frustration started. But then kind of fast forward to this year, he wins the starting job. And it's not spectacular, but there are flashes. Like the game-winning drive against Notre Dame goes really well for him. They go 11-0, and then they play Michigan. They lose. And there is a sentiment from Ohio State fans that they lose that game because Kyle McCord threw 2 interceptions. And part of that is correct. Like one of them is you give Michigan a short field and they score. Now they scored on 4th down, so whatever. But he threw 2 interceptions. And after throwing 2 interceptions and losing your 3rd straight to your rival, where you were never really anointed the starting quarterback, like you won the job, but it somewhat appeared as if Kyle McCord was never really like choice number 1. And there's like, I'm a big proponent of like self-awareness is really important. Kyle McCord, after losing to Michigan, where he threw 2 interceptions and was never really anointed the starting quarterback, apparently went into the coach's office and was like, if I'm not going to be the like locked in starter for 2024 and you guys don't increase my NIL money, I'm going to leave. So just like think about that for a second. A guy who just threw 2 interceptions and you could probably argue was the reason that your team did not win the most watched game in college football and the sport's biggest rivalry, went in to the coach's office and said, if I'm not the guaranteed starter and you don't give me more NIL money, I'm leaving. There is a time and a place to ask for a raise. And after you made a gigantic screw up is not the time. And having just a little bit of self-awareness goes a long way. So the idea that you have maybe conceivably your worst game of the season on the sport's biggest stage, and then you say, well, other transfer quarterbacks are getting $1 million. If I'm not getting close to that, I'm out of here. I don't know what your expected response is other than like, okay, we'll see it. Like, that's a pretty easy thing to be like, no. And Ryan Day on the Ohio State coaching staff has every reason to explore the transfer portal, explore recruiting, explore every option to get better at that position. Because, and this is, he's a bit of a victim of the previous success, right? That the 3 quarterbacks that precede you were all Heisman Trophy finalists and first-round picks. And Kyle McCord, I don't think, was ever going to be that. That doesn't mean he's not good/okay. Like, he is apparently is going to transfer to Syracuse. And like, I think things will probably go pretty well for him there. He'll be a slightly above average college quarterback. And if that's your ceiling, that's your ceiling. But I think Ohio State has higher standards and higher expectations than that, coupled with the idea that after kind of your worst game in a tough spot, your immediate reaction is, give me more money or I'm leaving. Now, we all like hope and pray and dream and think in our own heads of like our own self-importance. Like, you go to your office and you're like, they couldn't do this without me. Like, here's the reality. They could, and they will if you decide to leave. Like, the idea that, oh man, I'm so important that this place would crumble without me. We've all thought it. But then there's reality that now, like, they've done this without much better, much more important people than you. And there's a difference between thinking it and saying it / doing it. Now, part of that, I think, might be Kyle McCord looking around the quarterback room and being like, I don't see a whole lot of dudes who are better at this than I am. If Lincoln Keenholz or Devin Brown were better than me, they would have been playing already. So I don't know if my guess would be Kyle McCord thought he had the Ohio State coaching staff by the balls a little bit of like, you don't believe in these guys either. So you're going to commit to me being the starting quarterback and I'm going to get more NIL money or I'm out and you guys are going to be in a hell of a spot. And they called us bluff, I think. But what a deeply unserious sport to throw 2 interceptions, have your worst game, and your immediate response is, you're giving me more money or I'm leaving. You don't get to screw up a project at work to the point where you're like, people are talking about like whether your boss is the right guy for the job and whether he should still be in that job. And then you're like, oh, by the way, daddy needs more money. No. Swing and a miss. It just highlights the fact that this sport is deeply unserious. And that's what I love about it. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Got bowl action all week this week. Looking forward to chatting with you about it right here on the Daily Huddle. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out here at Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. Back at it tomorrow. We'll see you then right here on the Daily Huddle with Saturday Glory.